Hi, welcome to Caffè Fibonacci. I'm Tim Cole. This is my colleague, Rufus Deutschler.
Hi there.
And today we're going to be covering an exciting new set of features in InDesign, Acrobat, and Flash that enable you to essentially use InDesign as your layout tool in order to make interactive slideshows, presentations, and web content by taking the InDesign layouts and porting them into Acrobat or as native files into Flash.
Or interactive PDFs.
Right. So, Rufus, why don't you explain the scenario that we're going to start with here on my laptop with InDesign?
What we have here is a brochure, and maybe if you want to go through the pages quickly. What we have here is the identity proposal for our new client check, and the color schemes, the logos, etc. And we want to show that to our client, but in a compelling way. What we really want to do is to add some buttons in there, some page transitions, to make a cool presentation.
Just a little bit of interactivity to show that it's that we cared.
That we care,
basically, that we're professional designers.
And that the money we're charging is actually worth it, right?
Always a priority.
Yes.
So the first thing that we're going to do is look at the buttons feature in InDesign. Now, this has been in InDesign before.
Actually, I've done an episode on that in Caffè Fibonacci about creating interactive PDFs, and things just got much, much easier.
Yeah, we basically remodeled the buttons user interface so that it's a little bit more clean to use, a little bit easier to use.
Actually, much easier to use.
Yeah, I'm going to change my workspace from just the essentials to interactivity using my application bar across the top. And here I have all of my interactivity-related panels available to me. So the first thing I'm going to do, however, is I'm going to grab a snippet. I had a font that contained some navigation button glyphs, and I converted those to outlines, and I saved them as a snippet. So I'm going to go into Bridge and grab this little snippet here and take that into InDesign and just drop that on my page.
Okay. Is that something you may want to do on the master page?
I definitely want to do this on the master page.
So, the buttons will appear on each page.
That's right. So here's my master. And let's drop these buttons here. And as you can see, I need to scale them down a little bit. So I'm going to go up to the Scale menu, and I'm just going to scale those down to about 60%. And then maybe using my smart guides here, you see I can align them to other page objects.
These smart guides are so cool. I mean, you can realign this to the text now.
Yes.
Without even having to pull down a guide.
Yeah. This smart guide feature is going to make making these interactive layouts, I think, go a lot faster. So what I need to do now with these things that look like buttons, I need to actually make them buttons in InDesign so I can create the interactivity. So I'm going to zoom in on them here. And we'll just select all of these objects, go to my contextual menu, interactive, and say convert to button. Now, as you can see, the bounding box changes to a little dashed line. That means these are buttons, and it brings up my buttons palette for me. So now I can select each one of these individually, and I can see, oh, okay, I've got a normal state for each one. What I'm going to do is add a rollover state for each button as well. So let's select that, and that, and that. So now I've got a rollover state established for each button, and what is displaying now is, in fact, the rollover state for each button as well. If I select all of these buttons now and make some sort of visible change, then that is going to be built into their rollover state, not their normal state.
Something like changing the color, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing to do here for the rollover state is just change the color. So I've got a red here that I'm going to use. And now let's go back to the buttons page and start selecting these individually. And you'll see that now my rollover state has changed to red.
Okay, and then we have also a state for clicking, which would mean that once I click the button, it could be yet another color.
It could.
Okay, and the other interesting thing that we have in the buttons panel, if you go in the pull-out menu, is that directly from there, we can actually decide how these buttons behave inside of the PDF document. For example, are they visible in the PDF? Are they not visible? Okay, and my favorite one actually is visible in PDF but does not print.
Yes.
Because when you print the PDF, what good are buttons?
You could press all day on a button on a piece of paper and nothing's going to happen.
Exactly.
So why disappoint people?
Why disappoint people? And let's choose visible in PDF but does not print.
Okay. Let's choose that for all of them.
All of them.
Let's do that for all of these buttons. Select them all. And visible in PDF but does not print.
Okay, great.
So there they are. We've got rollover states now for all of these buttons. Now let's add some action.
You can actually preview that rollover state. You want to just toggle off the visibility of the buttons. Okay, when you're just moving from one button to the other, we get the idea of how these buttons will actually behave.
So this is I'm just previewing my little rollover state there, and let's go back, put that to the normal state as well. So now what we're going to do is we're going to just add the interactivity here, the little navigation bit, and this is nice because in CS4 it's all in this palette. It's all there's not a separate panel that you have to navigate to, and that's a lot nicer. So let's just say on click for this button, that's when we want to trigger the action. And then let's add a new action here by clicking on the plus sign. And for this button, we want that to...
Actually, Tim, can you go back to the event menu?
Yeah.
Because my preferred behavior is actually on release.
I know it is.
Because how many times have you clicked on a button and then changed your mind? Okay.
Yeah, but I don't like to allow that.
Well, you fascist.
No, it's a very good point.
Yes.
Probably on release is probably the way most people would expect it to work, because sometimes you do click on something and then you back out of it. You think better of it.
Okay,
you think better of it.
And that's why I think that,
But that to me just says you don't have confidence in your presentation for your client. That's all. I'm just saying a confident person just does it on click.
Okay.
But that's just me. That's just me.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll say on release.
Thank you, Tim.
Then we will go to add the action. Now, in this case, I want this button to go to the first page.
Okay.
All the way to the first page, right? And then this button, we just want to go back one page. So we'll say on release, go previous page. And this one would be the next page. Right there. And then this would be the last page, of course.
Of course.
Okay.
Okay. So that was so easy. I mean, in the past with CS3, for example, I had to go through many windows to do that, and I had to do that individually on each button. This really makes it much faster.
Quite a bit easier here. Then the other thing that I want to do here is on this master page is here I've got a URL for the magazine, for the online presence that I've created for them, which has already gone live.
Well, one thing I want to point out here also is that usually when you make a PDF and you have a URL written out entirely, like HTTP, two dots, and / etc., www.checkmagazine.com, Acrobat will automatically pick it up. So you don't have to do that really inside of InDesign. But in that case,
it's not a complete URL.
It's not a complete URL. It can be useful to add it manually inside of InDesign.
So let's just create a hyperlink here from the hyperlinks panel, which has also been streamlined a bit. It's a little bit easier to use. And in the URL field, we just enter the entire complete URL required.
And you can even write URLs for email addresses. For example, instead of writing HTTP, you would write mail to, two dots, and then the email address. And that would actually launch your email application and send an email.
Yeah, just any URL that you would have in a web browser, for example, you could enter here. Then you can apply a character style to this hyperlink if you want to. We're just going to leave it as it is. And then you can also control the appearance. Now, the visible rectangle, you can have a visible rectangle appear in the PDF, for example, to highlight this. We are not going to use...
We're going to assume that people know that when they click on something that looks like a hyperlink, it'll take them somewhere.
Well, yeah, and because your little cursor, their cursor will change into the clicky finger.
The clicky finger.
Yeah,
I like that.
if I may speak technically for just a moment. So I will click OK, and so now this will be a live URL in the PDF. Now let's go back to our pages again. So we've taken care of the buttons. The buttons show up on the pages. We've taken care of the URL. That shows up on all the pages as well because that's on a master page. And now what we want to do is add some page transitions.
Okay.
What happens when we click to advance the page?
All right.
Right? So,
and that adds some movement in our presentation.
It makes us look like a far more sophisticated agency. So now what we have in InDesign CS4 is something new in the Pages panel flyout menu called Page Transitions. So let's go up here and choose some transitions. Now what I have here is 12 different transitions. All but one of these apply to PDF. So if I export this as a PDF, I can use blinds, fade, zoom in, zoom out, and you can see that if I mouse over these, they should activate. Okay,
they do.
They should preview. Okay, like that. Okay, so Notice then there's also this last one, which is SWF only, new feature in InDesign. You can export directly as a Swift file. Okay, this last one, this page curl, is available only in Swift. Okay.
Okay.
So if I'm going to go to PDF, though, which is my first task, I'm going to use one that's available in PDF. So which one do you want to use, Rufus? Do you have a favorite here?
Like fade?
Okay, let's choose fade. And then down here, I have this option to apply this to all spreads. If I don't check this box, it's only going to apply to the page that I have selected when I get into this.
I could actually go wild and do different page transitions for each page, right? Like
But
go from lines to box.
But as a former professional designer, is that something you would recommend?
I wouldn't, but that's something that Jason Levine would do.
Okay.
Okay.
So there you go. Jason might have a rebuttal in one of his episodes. So we're just going to click OK here. And now this document is ready to export, either as PDF or Swift, but we're going to do PDF first.
Yes.
So now what I'm going to do is bring up my export menu, and let's just let's export this to the desktop.
That will be File Export or Command E.
That's
what
correct.
You just did, right?
That's right. So I'm going to export this as Adobe PDF. And then what we have to make sure here is that we choose Acrobat 5 PDF 1.4 or higher. If you choose 1.3, all of your interactivity goes away. It's flattened and it's destroyed.
And the other thing to note, if you have any movies in your InDesign document that you want in your PDF document as well, you have to be in Acrobat 6 or higher.
Yes.
Because if you want to embed them.
Yes.
Okay, because Acrobat 5 would have linked to them as an external file.
And that's a good point. You can export movies and audio into PDF, not in Swift, okay? Because we have another avenue for you to go, another workflow for integrating movies and sound. But in PDF, you can embed audio, movies, including other Swift files, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we want to choose View PDF after exporting, and we want to include all of our interactive stuff here. Let's not choose that. Let's go with interactive elements.
It's basically the hyperlinks and the interactive elements.
Yes. And right down here in the corner, use object settings. This is relevant if you have a movie embedded.
If you have a movie, yes, because you can choose to have the movie play by itself on page turn or things like this, or you can decide from here, multimedia, to overwrite these settings for all objects inside of your InDesign document, or use object settings, which is the preferred way.
That's correct. Yeah, but we already covered that in the interactive PDF episode earlier in this series. So now we're just going to export this, and it should pop up automatically for us in Acrobat to view.
Well, we've asked for it.
Yes. Okay, so now this has opened for us in Acrobat. I'm going to use Command L to go into my full screen slideshow mode. And here we are. So here's my here are my navigation buttons, which show up with my little rollovers, and then if I mouse over my URL, you can see that URL is live now on every page.
And it shows, if you mouse over long enough, it shows as a tooltip there.
Yeah, the whole URL shows.
The whole URL. Okay.
So now let's advance through our pages, and you can see that our fade effect is there. Okay.
So basically what we've done here is effectively create a presentation using all of the tools available in InDesign. Okay, so great typography, support for OpenType, transparency effects, all these things that we like about InDesign, we're actually using to make a presentation.
Yeah, and as we showed in the earlier episode, you can embed movies and sound. You can make a complete interactive presentation. Okay, so that's great. That's cool. But that's just the beginning of the story.
That's just the beginning.
It's just the beginning. That's what makes this episode so great. It's just the beginning.
Okay, PDF readers, the Adobe Reader is pretty pervasive. It's on most of the computers out there.
Yeah.
But what is the application that's over 95% penetration inside of the computers worldwide? What is this application, Tim?
What could it be?
Well,
what could it be?
What could it be?
Maybe Flash?
It is Flash.
Maybe Flash?
It is Flash, Tim.
Okay.
So what the engineers have been working on in the past years for this new release of InDesign is actually a way for us to take our InDesign document and export that right into a Swift.
Yeah, so if you were paying attention to the earlier export, you probably noticed the SWF option there. So let's choose something to save, that option to export. And here is my Swift export dialog box. Now what this does is this saves a complete black box canned Swift file ready for the web.
Yes.
Okay? And this can be used just like, suppose I had a document that I built for print, and I just wanted my colleagues to be able to preview this in a web browser internally. I would use this option.
Or for our client to have his publication online.
Right. Or for us just to show them, instead of emailing them a presentation, if we're remote, we could just send them this SWIFT file, or we could show them the SWIFT file via Connect or whatever. So here are my Swift export options. First of all, notice that I can scale this presentation either to a specific canned screen size. I can leave it at the original size, or create an arbitrary size, or I can, down here I can be totally arbitrary and even change the proportions. I'm not sure why I would want to change the proportions, but I could.
Yeah, you could.
And then my page options, note that I do have the option to export InDesign document as spread. So if I laid out the document in facing pages, I could actually flip those pages, and view them as spreads like an open book. Down here, rasterize pages. I could rasterize this and turn it completely into a bitmap. It's more secure in a way, because that way you can't, the text can't be changed. It can't be copied out of there. So if I wanted to, I could rasterize it. Then I can also choose to generate the HTML file that accompanies it, and then view the Swift after exporting. That's just like viewing the PDF.
And the next choice is really, really important, because there we can actually choose to have the text from the InDesign document convert to Flash text.
Yes.
Or what we also can choose is have the InDesign text to go to vector path, so it would remain crisp text and
which means you could zoom on it; it wouldn't pixelate.
Yes, it wouldn't
but
pixelate.
Yeah.
Or we could raster the text, so turn the text into pixels.
Yes.
Okay. Actually, this is something I advise not to do, because what Google and Yahoo now do, they have a new search capability that allows them to index the contents of Flash files, of Swift files. So my suggestion here is to as much as we can, to leave InDesign text to Flash text, because that text will then be indexed.
Right, because if you change it to either to vectors or raster, it's no longer
it's
not text anymore. So, and then here's your interactivity options, whether or not you want to include buttons, hyperlinks, page transitions, and you can also include the interactive page curl. So even if I've chosen another transition, like
in that case, fade.
We have the fade transition, we can also include a page curl in addition.
All right.
Okay, so that's
let's
what we'll
have
do.
It all.
Yeah, let's take it all, and let's do a 1024/768. That sound good to you?
That sounds good.
So let's
and then let's look at the image compression very quickly.
Okay.
What we have here, because we can choose the image quality of how the images will be transferred into the Swift file, and we can go from the minimum size, so very rough pixelized images, but very fast to load, okay, to very high quality. Okay,
well,
so
there's high and then maximum. Maximum quality, please.
Okay. Let's leave it medium right now. Okay. And as far as the curve quality is concerned, that's talking about the Bezier curves.
Right.
And Flash actually represents those Bezier curves sort of differently from Illustrator, let's say, or InDesign. So we can choose of how many segments inside of a curve we want. Okay.
Right.
And that also means that we can make the file very light or slightly more heavier in terms of megabytes. And there, again, we can go from minimum all the way up to maximum. Right. And let's just show the image compression one.
Okay.
This one, yes. And there we can decide to have the JPEG or lossless, have the images at the resolution and size they're actually put inside of the InDesign.
Well, right, and also you're not going to get any artifacting.
Exactly.
Compression artifacting. Okay, so let's just leave that as auto, as you said, and then let's just click OK. And click OK.
Basically what it said is the document has buttons and hyperlinks, and we want to get those over. And now we're inside of our web browser, looking at the exact same document.
So here we have our InDesign document, all the layout preserved, all the typography preserved, but it's being delivered in a web browser. So there's my fade working, but now when I mouse over a corner and click and drag, I have...
This is just awesome.
Isn't that cool?
That's so cool.
I like that.
Yes. This is going to change the way that designers will approach the building of their print documents, thinking of how it will also look on an online version just like this.
Right. Okay, so with just a few minutes we have left, though, we have to show you something else that's spectacular. So let's go back to InDesign and change documents here. What we have here, Rufus, do you want to explain what this is?
Yes, this is a slightly more complex document than our simple presentation from before. And what we want to do here is actually leverage one of the other new features in InDesign CS4, which allows us to export in yet another Flash format. And we call this the XFL format. .xfl is Exchange for Flash. Okay? And what this actually does is create a file that we will be able to open in Flash CS4 Professional.
Right.
Okay? And because when we export as a SWF, like we just did, we actually have a canned file, which cannot be modified.
Right.
Okay? If, on the other hand, we export all of the content of our InDesign document, and maybe you want to go through the pages a little just to show what we have in here, we're actually going to give our Flash developers the opportunity to play with all of these elements that we created inside of InDesign. And the interesting thing here is that, again, why would we use InDesign to do that? Because there we can leverage InDesign's typography features, transparency features, and all the nice things that allow us to quickly create layouts.
Well, the bottom line is, InDesign is the best layout tool. Okay,
absolutely.
And the purpose behind this whole set of features is to enable a workflow where the designers use InDesign, all the sophisticated features of InDesign, to create a fabulous layout, but then you don't lose anything when you want to go interactive with it. So what we're doing here with this file is we're choosing a different export option, which is Flash Pro XFL. It's an XML format that is an alternative native file format for Flash. So what we're doing here is just translating our InDesign layout into a native Flash file. And once it's in Flash, anything you can do in Flash, you can do to your InDesign layout. So we already have a layout already.
No, maybe you want to just back up and show the options we have.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a very good idea. Because they are similar to
the SWF export,
but a little bit different.
Yes.
A few less. So again, we have the same scaling features, and then a choice of whether or not we want to see spreads and all that, page range, and then whether or not to rasterize, whether or not to flatten transparency. And this is key here because, and this is important to emphasize, the Flash model supports all of the transparency, the blend modes, drop shadows, and opacities in InDesign. So you're not losing any of your objects when you go into Flash. That's huge.
In previous workflows, I mean, we've had many clients or agencies that actually created online magazines just like this in Flash. But the problem was that the print designers would lay out all their images and text and create the print version, and then the Flash guys had to take the same text and same images and rebuild the whole thing from scratch.
Yeah, it's a workflow nightmare.
Workflow nightmare. And the things wouldn't look exactly the same.
So what this XFL workflow represents is a seamless backdoor into Flash. So again, the designers hand off the layout to the Flash people. Flash people can go completely nuts with this layout.
Yeah.
And then also, by the way, here you have the same text options going to XFL. And
it would be good to leave the text for Flash text.
Right. So let's go to Flash, where we have this opened. Now, this right here is the XFL that we exported from InDesign.
And each page is in its in a separate keyframe.
Yes.
Okay, and to start with. Okay, and each page is actually a movie clip that we can dive into and change the elements. And that's what our Flash group can then do: start animating the images around, changing the opacity of objects, and making that a totally different file. And here we go. That's the second example of where our team has actually worked on it and has added some action scripting to it and had movement and things that are not actually on the page, like we can see here, little images on the top there that are actually outside of the stage, because this is not called a page anymore. This is called a stage inside of Flash.
Yeah.
And these things are outside of the stage. And through programming, what we can do is get these things onto the stage and viewable to our users.
And of course, in Flash CS4, it's a lot more of a visual tool as well. There's less programming involved in CS4. In Flash CS4, there's a lot more you can do with just point and click in Flash CS4.
Exactly.
So what we've got here, we'll preview this. We'll do a command return, and we will preview the work that's been done here. Again, the raw material, the raw layout has come from InDesign, and now we're going to preview the work that's been done in Flash Player.
Actually, in Flash itself.
Yeah. Here's
our InDesign layout completely revamped through action scripting and our Flash people, because what they did here is add animation like these little plus signs, and we can navigate page through page. And if you move down there, there's a little page browser.
This page browser is cool.
And these are the elements that were actually outside of the stage I was talking about before. And through scripting, we move them on the stage, and now our users can simply click on the page they want to view and go there. And the other interesting thing here is that we have, obviously, a Flash movie ability inside of this workflow. And this completely opens doors that were previously unthinkable.
So this is very, very exciting, and this could be put up on, this is ready to go on the internet. The point being is if you're doing an interactive magazine, or if you have newspaper stuff that needs to go up there, you can create a workflow where the InDesign layout goes into Flash. The Flash gets doctored up with all of the animation interactivity, and then it gets posted to the internet. Now there's one other way to deliver this using Adobe technology, and this is very, very interesting because of all the possibility it opens up. What I'm going to do is switch to a separate application here. This is actually an application. This is an Adobe Air version of this document. What makes this different from something playing in Flash Player is that this is not a Flash file per se. It's an application.
Yes.
It's a lump of executable application code.
Yes, done with Air, the Adobe Integrated Runtime. And the benefit of that is that you can view that file offline and online. Okay.
This is an application that will run whether you're connected to the internet or not. The beauty of this, though, is that as you can see, we can navigate this. It behaves just like the Flash file because the Flash code is in there, but it runs independently of an internet connection. And what you could do, for example, if you're a publisher, is you could build a shell using Flash, make an Air application out of it, and then it could go via the internet. It could go to your website and just pull the latest content down, the latest news, the latest updated brochure information, latest images or whatever.
In this example, for example, what we've done is add on the top of the window, we've added a little card and the ability to view different issues, so to connect to the internet and view other documents. So basically what this Air application does is connect to a database on the internet and feeds new content into these pages.
This means that you could design an interactive catalog using InDesign, make an Air application out of it, and then have, in this case, you can see a little shopping cart up there, but you could allow, online ordering or whatever.
Absolutely.
So anything you can do with an internet connection, you can use this application as a shell to do that.
So basically what we've seen is that we've created an interactive PDF with page transitions and how easy it is to make new buttons in InDesign CS4, and how easy it is to make a Swift file, a canned Swift file, how easy it is to get our content to our Flash developers in the XFL format, and even going more complex, doing an Air application that leverages all the work we've done in InDesign. Okay, so no longer do we need to repurpose the content to rebuild things. Okay.
What starts as a humble yet beautiful InDesign design winds up,
document,
could wind up as an actual desktop application used to generate revenue for your corporation.
There you go.
Fabulous. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed this little exploration of creating interactive documents from InDesign, new PDF, new Flash, Air. It's very exciting, very fabulous. Check that out, Creative Suite 4. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.